So the cost function for a certain company is C equals 70x plus 200, and the revenue is given by R equals 100x minus 0.5x squared. Recall the profit is revenue minus cost. So that's an important thing to know. The profit function equals revenue minus cost. Set up a quadratic equation and find two values of x, where x is the production level, that would create a profit of $200. So we need to come up with a profit function first. So we're going to do profit equals, we have our revenue function, 100x minus 0.5x squared minus the cost function, which is 70x plus 200. Okay, so there's my revenue function and my cost function. And let's go ahead and simplify it. So that's 100x minus 0.5x squared minus 70x minus 200. So we just distributed that negative to both of these. Simplify that. I have negative 0.5x squared, and then 100 minus 70, which because it's 100x minus 70x, is 30x minus 200. So we have there's our profit function. Now it wants to know what are my x, values of x, that would create a profit of $200. So that's my p. So I'm going to put 200 in for my p. And then we're going to solve for our x's. Okay, so set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 200 from both sides. So I get 0 equals negative 0.5x squared plus 30x minus 400. And now we need to solve this equation. And there's really several different ways. We could divide by 1/2. We could use the quadratic formula as it sets. So it just kind of depends on how you may want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula. There's my A, there's my B, and my C is negative 400. So let's plug that into our quadratic. So negative B, which is 30, plus or minus the square root of 30 squared minus 4 times A, which is negative 0.5, times C, which is negative 400. And that is all over 2 times A. Okay, so I brought up my calculator so we can calculate this under the square root. Of course, 30 squared is going to be 900. Okay, so I have x equals negative 30 plus or minus square root of 900. And 3 negatives is still going to give me a negative. So a negative 4 times a negative 1/2 times a negative 400. So I've got negative 4 times negative 0.5 times negative 400. And make sure you use the negatives and not the minus, because you'll get an error. And it looks like I get negative 800. Get my calculator out of the way. Negative 800. And that's all over 2 times 1/2, negative 1/2. So that's going to be negative 1. Because 2 times 1/2 is 1, and it's a negative. So I end up with x equals negative 30 plus or minus the square root of 100 over negative 1. Well, we know the square root of 100, that's 10. So I have negative 30 plus or minus 10. And these are both over negative 1, which it's going to make this a positive 30. 30 plus or minus 10. So it looks like I have 30 plus 10, which is 40, or 30 minus 10, which is 20. So it looks like the two values of x need to be 20 needs to be 20 or 40 in order to have a profit of $200.